Hello, everybody. My name is Lily Lamboy, and I am the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Blue Shield of California. And I'm so thrilled to have a chance to sit down with Hope Scott, Blue Shield of California's Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary, to talk about the role of mentorship as a powerful way to break down barriers for folks who are underrepresented in their fields, and discuss some of what Blue Shield of California is doing at a structural level to address diversity, equity, and inclusion within our walls and in our communities. Hope, so excited to see you today.
Thank you, Lily. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Hope, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your role and about the journey you took to becoming a senior executive leader.
Sure. So I always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer from a pretty young age, and I was fortunate to also realize that I wanted to work for a company and not be a law firm attorney or a partner, a prosecutor or defense attorney, the kind of lawyers you see on TV. And I had some exposure to attorneys who were working as in-house counsel. So I was pretty quickly able to pivot from starting off in a law firm where you kind of learn the basics of how to be a lawyer after law school to moving right into in-house counsel. And I was also very fortunate to come out of law school and start my legal practice in a space where healthcare law was becoming a thing. It was not really a separate specialty prior to the time I started working. And so I was kind of at the forefront of healthcare law, working in life and health insurance companies. Over time, I worked for myself, representing providers and also consumers of healthcare. So my career in law has really been around healthcare. And I came to California after about 20 years on the East Coast, practicing in various settings, but always focusing on health law, privacy law, making sure that consumers have access to care. And I joined Blue Shield of California as the Chief Privacy Officer and Privacy Counsel. And I was very happy to come here in 2012 and start kind of rebuilding the privacy program. I think many people are familiar with HIPAA. If you ever go to the doctor, you're given some kind of a HIPAA privacy notice. All of those things were started during the course of my career in law and health law. And I enjoyed working in the privacy space, but 3 years into my tenure at Blue Shield, I was given the opportunity to be promoted to vice president and run the compliance and enterprise risk management functions. So great opportunity. I knew nearly nothing about enterprise risk management, and we were building a program. And I had some great folks who were very experienced in that space join me, and working with them, I continue to learn and grow and expand my understanding of both business and law. Certainly very deep understanding of the healthcare system in California and across the country. And then I was given the opportunity to become the Deputy General Counsel for the law department at Blue Shield. So combining my compliance and risk work with my legal work and bringing some of the legal teams under my responsibility. And then about a year later, through lots of hard work, mentorship, and sponsorship, I was given the opportunity to become the Senior Vice President and General Counsel of Blue Shield of California, which is my current position.
Incredible. What a journey. And it sounds like there's so many junctures along the way where you made pivots, where you learned new skills, where you got or gleaned insights. And I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about, who the folks were that helped you make those pivots or decisions or gave you those insights, and what mentorship looked like at some of those junctures along your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It took a lot of support from family and friends and trusted advisors along the way. And certainly my transition from an East Coast person to a California resident was a huge leap. And I needed lots of support. There were many, many people who, just believed that I could do it. When I moved out to California, I took this job. I knew one person in the Bay Area, and she was an ex-girlfriend of an elder brother of mine. So not really a close friend that I could be like, help me figure my life out, but she was very
Wow.
helpful. But just getting support from people who believed in me and said, hey, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything, and continuously told me that, even when I would call them and say, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can figure out how to settle myself out of the East Coast and move to California. When I got here to Blue Shield of California, I met some amazing people who told me things like, Hope, it's time for you to ask for a review of your compensation. Oh, I didn't
Mm.
know that was a thing. And boom, I was ready for a compensation upgrade in that moment. I developed a very close relationship with my boss, the former general counsel of the company. And, when we talk about sponsorship and mentorship, I'm happy to give you more information about how that worked out. But, you know, having those types of people who see that you have potential
Yeah.
and then believing in yourself along with them is really the key to my success anyway.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, Hope. I think you've been one of these people for me. So I'm really delighted to be talking about this with you because that sense of having someone believe in you, there's, someone literally saying, I believe in you. And then there's the way that somebody who is senior to you, who is further along in their career, who's a role model, just showing up in a way that makes that clear and obvious. And I would just say from my own experience, something that really meant a lot to me. So for context, for those of you out there, Hope and I work together very closely because Hope is also the chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leadership Council. And so we are, joined at the hip. And something, this is such a small thing, but, I came from a background as an artist, an activist, an academic, very much not in the corporate space until the last, 4 years or so. And upon meeting you and seeing the way that you ran meetings and the humor and personable quality that you brought, I felt comfortable dyeing my hair for the first time. And I know that's such a small and silly thing, but when we think about bringing our authentic selves to work, I'd never come out as pansexual before working at Blue Shield. I'd never felt comfortable having, wacky hair in the office. And it was really the environment that you created and this sense of belief in me as a younger leader, that would not just be tolerated, it would be celebrated. And I think that that's such a subtle thing, but creating those conditions for folks where you're signaling your belief in them and you're signaling that it's more than okay to be you, just goes such a long way in a corporate, corporate structure that can feel like to succeed you have to be traditional or you have to be like a certain archetype that you've seen be successful before. And when you don't see people like you succeeding, it's really hard to know if that's going to be safe and if it's going to be okay. And so, I'm just really grateful to you for creating that space. And I wanted to ask you, I'm sure there weren't that many Black women that you could look up to at the C-suite level as you were progressing through your own journey. And I'm wondering, who you leaned on for support or looked up to and the different roles that folks played. I know you mentioned your boss, for example, to help folks who are tuning in think about, how can they show up or what can they ask for as they're navigating their careers, potentially as somebody who doesn't have a lot of those role models to look at right now.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for sharing that. That's a beautiful story, and I'm humbled to have been a part of your journey there. We could talk for days and days about all the crazy hair things that I've done over the years, just because. And I've literally walked into my very corporate job in a nice suit with, a natural or
Yep.
a traditional hairstyle, and been like, I dare you to say something. Like, I
Yeah.
literally dare you to say something about my hair, because I am qualified and I am in this room for a reason. So I'm super glad that influenced you. Where I I think people should look, because there are so many places where there are no women or few women or no Blacks or no Latinos, or, fill in the blank. Whether it's ethnicity or gender or, religious affiliation, whatever it is, we have a lot of inroads to make in areas where we whoever we are not well represented or are underrepresented. And so I really look for people who I respect and whose opinions I respect, wherever they may be. So, not necessarily looking for other women leaders or lawyers in house. I would look outside. I would look at women who were running their own businesses. I would look to my own, successful family members who, not everybody in my family is a senior vice president, but they've that had fantastic careers. They are leaders in working for the state or working for federal contractors, things like that. And build your network of people who can support your aspirations, even if they cannot directly influence you getting like promoted to the next level or into a different industry. And then definitely embrace people who don't look like you, who can do those things. You have to build that network so that it's strong and deep. And you want to be able to have the confidence to approach whoever it is at the top of the organization you're trying to get into. You don't have that confidence if you don't have a strong network of other people who are successful and who say, you could do, I don't know exactly the steps you need to take to become the general counsel of Blue Shield of California, but I know that you could totally rock law school. You could definitely get, these intervening jobs. How can we be supportive of those types of steps in your career?
Yep.
That builds your confidence so that when the opportunity opens up, oh, I want to be on the board of fill in the blank company, you're ready, not just in terms of your experience, but your competence and your confidence.
Yes, I love that. And I think it's such a great rule of thumb that you're pointing out around identify people who you respect, not people who have more power than you per se, right? Not people who are structurally situated to promote you or not. It might be that those things go together, and that's amazing. And in some contexts, the person that you respect and admire might be outside your field, might be in a different position in the organization. For me, it might be, for me in grad school, when I was getting my PhD, I had so much respect for the folks who did the administrative work in our office. And those were some of my deepest mentors, were the folks who did, the folk who work behind the scenes, not the tenure track academics. And when I actually needed support, I would go to them and I would sit with them and talk about my career. And so when I think it's such a great piece of advice to think about whose opinions do you respect? Who do you feel sees you for you and is going to be your champion and in your corner, regardless of how they're situated in the world? Because that's what's going to make you see yourself for what you're capable of and your potential and find that sense of strength.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. I'm thinking about all the, centuries of legal and social and economic exclusion that women and people of color have experienced from formal education, workplaces, economic access. And there are a lot of systemic barriers that folks face in organizational structures. And I'm wondering, when you think of people who are in a position to mentor or to sponsor, what are some of the things that you might point out to them as, ways to, as individuals, address some of those more structural barriers?
Yeah, I think being really intentional in what you're doing and how you're doing it is critical. I've worked with a number of coaches over the course of my career, and one of them helped me understand that a lot of times I would say, oh, that's just how I am. I did that because that's my personality. And she was like, dig deeper and figure out really, how did you achieve that? How did you influence those people? And so I've taken to really thinking very carefully about, what do I want people to take away from an interaction with me? what do I want them to find valuable about, if I'm mentoring or coaching or sponsoring someone, I'm not just going to delegate work to members of my team because I don't have time to do it and it's
Right.
their job. I'm going to be very thoughtful about, what does this mean for you? How does this give you an opportunity to show your talents or break through a barrier where you're nervous about being able to achieve or accomplish something? And I think when we look at other people, we shouldn't just be like, oh, they're just contacting me because I'm in a position of power. They would like someday to be in that position and they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think we have to look at each other in very specific terms and say, what is it about this outreach, or whether you're making the outreach or somebody's reaching out to you, what is it about this outreach that can be valuable for both of us?
Yep.
I definitely can't give everybody who contacts me a job, but I can maybe find out and be curious and inquisitive about, why me? There are lots of
Mm.
GCs, or there are lots of heads of diversity, equity, and inclusion leadership councils. Like, what is it about me? And they might say, oh, I realized that you went to graduated from the same college or the same law school, or you grew up in my town. The conversation takes a different path, and that's the path to networking. Because I might not be able to give you a job, but I might know your cousin back east, and I can say, hey, I ran into so and so, and they are looking for an opportunity. And you understand where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But I think, particularly for people who are not in the majority, we often approach mentorship or guidance or opportunities to engage as a transactional
Yeah.
situation. And it can be that, but it shouldn't always be that. If you think about a networking opportunity, you might think, okay, somebody scheduled a conference and I have to go, and we're all going to hand out, virtual business cards and whatever. The reality is, every time you're outside with people, you are in a networking opportunity, and you can choose to engage with people around you or not.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be at a conference, one of the things you should remember is, we're all at this conference. That's like a baseline connection that we
Right.
have.
That's
Now
right.
I can ask you about your cute shoes, or when did you dye your hair that color? It doesn't have to be like, what can you do for me? And in
Yeah.
exchange, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
Thinking about people as individuals, and
Yeah.
not so much like, ugh, what do you want from me now?
Yeah.
I just call that curiosity and openness.
Yeah. And I think you model that really well. I would say one thing I've observed in working with you for almost 2 years is um, I know that I can reach out to you basically anytime and you will respond with care and enthusiasm. Um, and that's really something I don't take for granted. And that's because of the warmth and the context that I know is there. It's safe. And that's such a specific way of showing up as a mentor. But I think it's something almost everyone here has the power to do with somebody in their lives. And I think your point around, almost the power of weak ties is kind of what I hear you saying is, show up as the self that you want other people to see you being. Um, and, I always, the best advice I ever got was your career is the pie eating contest where the reward is more pie.
I love that.
And so, in some ways, if you show up as the person you want to be, you gravitate towards folks that you think are respect worthy, interesting, doing exciting things. You ask them questions, they ask you questions. That's going to inherently help you lead in the direction where, your career isn't a single fixed point that you're aiming towards. It's a series of small, corrections along the way that are so influenced by who you surround yourself by.
100%. Definitely the journey is the exciting part of being alive, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so, we've at Blue Shield, we've made diversity, equity, and inclusion really central to our business strategy. And you lead, the council that steers and governs that work. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how that shows up for us as an organization, and why you think it's essential to our success as a business.
Yeah. When I look at old movies or old TV shows, and I'm always struck by the fact that everybody in them, at least in the American shows, everybody is white.
So
Like,
wild.
boy, it was a really white world back in those days when Leave It to Beaver was on and whatever, like these old black and white TV shows. But that's not how the world was then, and it's not how
Right.
it is now, and it's not how it's ever going to be. Um, and our mission at Blue Shield of California is to serve all Californians,
Yep.
which means whatever race, ethnicity, background, whether you're here with with credentials and with papers or without them, our mission is focused on people, and people are diverse, and we cannot be a successful company, and we certainly can't successfully achieve our mission of making high quality healthcare available to all Californians at an affordable price. We can't do that if we're not driven by the people who we're serving.
Yep.
So I can sit here and talk about what I have learned on Google and what I think the Sikh community might need, and be like, let's develop a product around what Hope learned on TV about the Sikh community. 99% chance that's not going to be useful to the Sikh community, and it's not going to work. And the fact that you're like, I've met Sikh people or I'm friends with, like, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So, we really are working towards having a diverse workforce that reflects and includes members of the communities that we serve.
Yep.
And because we are a health company, a health plan, we're focusing a lot of attention on health equity, because again, there's so much diversity among the world's population that noticing that there are differences in the quality of healthcare or the availability of healthcare or how health care is delivered is part of our job. That is our mission and mandate as well. We've looked at maternal health disparities, and certainly they continue to be a big indicator of health disparity as COVID continues its journey through the world. Certainly mental health issues and access to mental health care, either just basic types of, do you have someone to talk about those feelings with, all the way through, do you have a psychiatrist who can prescribe the appropriate medications? Those are issues that we at Blue Shield can influence.
Yes.
But it's not going to be helpful if three people sit in a room. It's like if you're writing a sitcom about women and it's like a room full of men doing the right. It might be funny, it might hit the mark sometimes, but it's helpful to build that with the people who you're trying to reach in your audience.
Yes.
So that's why I'm really passionate about the work of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council at Blue Shield. It reflects our commitment to achieve these goals of bringing diverse people together, both inside of our workplace and as members of our community.
Amazing. So inspired to work on this, truly. And one thing you're emphasizing is the importance of bringing folks in as employees who are shaping the products and services that we're delivering to our communities. And we know that there's bringing folks in, and we know that there's developing and growing those employees and making them feel seen, heard, and cared for. And I'm wondering what mentorship and sponsorship opportunities, we're developing. If you could talk about some of those, how do we do that at a structural level here to make sure that we're not just bringing folks in, but we're really supporting them once they're here?
Yeah, we as an employer have invested a lot of time and energy in identifying the people in our organization who have strong leadership potential at wherever they are, whether they're on a frontline job right now or they're, heading up the corporate ladder.
Yep.
And we've partnered with a number of external resources to come in and provide these people training opportunities, development opportunities, structured courses on executive leadership
Yep.
that are, multi-week, multi-month courses. We have internal programs that we've developed where we have cohorts of people below the director level, which is our first executive level at Blue Shield. So those people who are managers and senior managers, giving them specific structured opportunities to learn, how do I get to the next step? What's it going to be like? And then we bring in speakers. I know I spoke at one event myself where we just sit and have a conversation, not unlike this one, where people can ask questions and, just really be exposed to the more senior leaders in the organization so that they get to understand that, we weren't all born senior VPs and we've just always been senior VPs.
Right.
So those are we have Lead to Excellence and Manage to Excellence and various programs that we very intentionally pull people in. Some are open to all people in a certain category. Other times they may be, specific Asian, Black, Latino cadres or women, et cetera. But I think the most important part of that is we have an executive protege program where we actually match up more junior kind of up and coming leaders with a senior leader in the company. And I have been participating in that. And I'll tell you, I hope my mentee has gotten plenty out of it, but it's always like reverse mentorship to me too,
Yes.
because I am learning from her. She is explaining to me the experience of being an up and coming leader in this moment, because it's not like it was when 20 years ago, when I started up that path. It's very different now. The challenges are different. Some of them are the same, but for me to be informed by her, so kind of going back to that diversity aspect of having the right people coming together, I'm getting a clearer understanding of the challenges of getting to the next level, breaking through those barriers. And I'll be honest, a lot of times when I'm mentoring people, and I do have a few non-Blue Shield folks that I mentor as well, the answer is prepare yourself for your next opportunity that is not with your company, because you may be ready before that next opening happens.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the people on my leadership team, I stepped into the general counsel role maybe 13 months ago. I'm hopefully not going anywhere for a while. What if one of my vice presidents and deputy general counsel is ready to be a GC somewhere?
Right.
I want them to stay with me forever and ever, but I also want them to be ready for the next opportunity when it presents itself. And that may be helping them figure out how to transition to another company or another opportunity. So when you're a mentor, you really have to be focused on the person and not like, what's in it for me? How can I make this work for me?
Yep.
You really are looking for a mentor who is all about you and will tell you the truth. Like, you are screwing this up, or you need to switch gears, or whatever it is. That's what you need to hear from your mentor.
Yes. I think that's so powerful to say that it's not about, we're not here to mentor folks at Blue Shield just to ensure that we're putting them in the position levels here when we need them. But we're really here for you as an individual to shape your career and trajectory and invest in you and ensure that you have all the resources that you need, and also hear from you about how to make those opportunities meaningful, about what we could be doing better. And I think that that's such a powerful message to end on, is that when you're asking someone to mentor you, you're not bothering them, you're helping them. You are shaping their perspective. You are giving them information about how our organization can work better for folks in the position that they're in. And I think that's a really wonderful thing to remember if you're nervous to ask somebody that it's of service to them, and it's not just for you. It's really a mutual relationship.
Absolutely.
I'm so sad to say that we are up on time, and I want to be respectful of everyone who's tuning in. I just want to, plug the fact that we have some amazing opportunities here at Blue Shield, and we hope that you will check them out on our careers page. It really is a great place to do meaningful work. I wouldn't be here if it weren't. And, you hope are one of the reasons that's true. So thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Right back at you.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye bye.